Okay, welcome to 20 plus questions with good bad flicks. This is something I wanted to do for a while and now finally getting around to it. Are there any legendary good bad flicks that you didn't enjoy when you finally got around to them? Movie 43. I thought that one was going to be bad, but in an entertaining way. With the cast, I was like, this is going to be just great. And it was just as bad as everyone said. Wow, what a terrible movie. Do you ever hear back from the filmmakers or actors that are in the films you review? Fairly often, actually, which is very cool. I've received some nice tweets and emails from everyone to actors to directors to extras. I gotta admit, it's pretty cool to be contacted by the folks involved. It's nice when one of the creators sees something that I created because of their creation, and they let me know that they appreciated it. What do you think is the most underrated and overrated movies of all time? I think Silent Hill is tremendously underrated. It's just an amazing film, and I'm still stunned that there are people who just can't stand it. Overrated? Gravity. That movie baffles me. I saw it, and I like Sandra Bullock, and I like George Clooney, and I liked the premise, but it was incredibly predictable. I didn't think that this story was anything to write home about, especially not the kind of movie that wins Oscars. For me, it was completely and utterly mediocre. Are you into comic book movies or comic books in general? If so, what's your favorite comic book character and favorite comic book movie? Absolutely. I've been into comics my whole life, ever since I was a little kid. My favorite comic book character? I'll go with two. I have a favorite mainstream character and a favorite unknown character. Love Green Lantern as far as a mainstream character. The character's amazing because there hasn't been just one Green Lantern. There's been various Green Lanterns over the years. I'm kind of partial to Kyle Rayner, but of course I also like Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart. It's just such an interesting character. There's so much they could do with it, and man, they just completely blew it with the Green Lantern movie. It was a huge disappointment. Favorite lesser-known character? Absolutely positively love Prime from Malibu. I reread a bunch of them recently, and just a great story. Such a shame. That goes into a lot of my dislike of Marvel, or at least Marvel in the 90s, because they ruined Malibu. It's a whole other story. I'm not going to get into it. But basically, I do harbor some ill will towards Marvel, but what are you going to do? Favorite comic book movie? I'm going to have to go with Dolph Lundgren's Punisher. I love that movie. Some other ones, though. I love the most recent Dread and the Brandon Lee The Crow. Great films. Doing any more videos for Marvel movies or comic book movies? I'm not so sure about the Marvel movies, but definitely more comic book movies, like Swamp Thing. I do plan on doing the mid-2000s Fantastic Four films, but as far as the big ones, the ones that have been coming out lately, Captain America and Thor and all them, they're great, but most people already know they're great. I don't know what more I could say about them that by the time I got around to actually doing them hasn't already been said. What's a movie that everyone likes but you hate, and a movie that everyone hates but you like? There's probably a bunch out there, but off the top of my head, I'll go with a movie that everybody likes that I hate, The Hangover. I thought the movie was absolute steaming garbage. And a movie that I like, or a movie that everyone hates but I like, I'm going to have to go with Catwoman. Catwoman is a terrible film, and it's a movie that I understand why a lot of people hate it, but it is so campy and silly and ridiculous that it's charming in its awfulness. It is one of the quintessential good bad flicks as far as I'm concerned. What's a favorite non-horror movie that everyone has to see? I'm going to go with Pee-wee's Big Adventure. That is one of the greatest comedy movies ever made. Absolutely adore that movie. Favorite Bond film? I don't have one favorite, but I have favorites by actors who played the character. Sean Connery, Goldfinger, George Lazenby, this one's easy, on Her Majesty's Secret Service, since it's the only one that he did, but it's actually a really great Bond movie. Roger Moore, View to a Kill, Timothy Dalton, The Living Daylights, Pierce Brosnan, The World Is Not Enough, and Daniel Craig, Casino Royale. What's your favorite movie soundtrack? I don't think I have just one favorite. There's so many good soundtracks out there. Drive, Rock and Rule, Resident Evil, The Faculty, Disturbing Behavior, Superman, Blade Runner. There's just too many to list them all. How many movies have you seen so far in your entire life? I actually did some math for this one. I don't know the exact number, but it's somewhere definitely over 2,000 movies. And if you don't think that that is a lot, that is 100 movies a year for 20 years. Any podcasts you listen to? Unfortunately, no, I really don't listen to a lot of podcasts. If I'm listening to anything, I'm listening to old episodes of Opie and Anthony. And now that Anthony's on his own, I'm listening to the Anthony Cumia Show. I used to listen to more podcasts back in like the early 2000s, but a lot of the ones that I listened to are not around anymore. I think the only one that I listened to with any regularity was Total Biscuit's one, where he talked about World of Warcraft. I think it was called Blue Please. I used to listen to that pretty regularly. Best death scene. Oh, there's so many. Off the top of my head, I'll go with Gene Simmons at the end of Wanted Dead or Alive. That scene is legendary. What kind of microphone do you use? I started out with a Creative Labs headset microphone, and when I got a little bit more serious, I moved on to a Samson Q8. And then for the bulk of the shows, I used a Shure SM58. I used to have access to a sound booth, but it's getting increasingly hard to get in there, so I started making a way to record from home. I figured it would make it easier in case I needed to re-record something, which was starting to happen. It was always annoying if I had to re-record something, and then I'd have to hold off a day and then go back and re-record in the studio, and now I can just do it at home. For the past few months, I've been using the Shure from home in the middle of the night to try to keep things as quiet as possible. Now I'm using a Yeti with a little home soundproofing. I just started using it this week with the new setup. Let me know what you think of the audio. I'm still tweaking it. What are you currently listening to? A good mix of albums from 2014. I Killed the Prom Queen, Courage My Love, Deadlock, Opeth, Arch Enemy, Gamma Ray, Overkill, Scar Symmetry, Delane, Dragon Force, Sumo Psycho, Amaranth, and even a little Lana Del Rey. What's the most requested movie that you haven't done yet? The Toxic Avenger. I get asked to do that all the time, and I probably won't, because I think I'd rather do a sort of video on trauma in general rather than just The Toxic Avenger. Because The Toxic Avenger is a great movie. I love it. It's a classic B movie. I adore Lloyd Kaufman. I think that he's fantastic. He's such an interesting individual. I've read a bunch of his books, and he's just fascinating. And just such a goofball, too. But the thing with The Toxic Avenger is it's kind of been done to death at this point, hasn't it? What joke could I make? What serious angle could I take that hasn't already been taken? So I think I would rather do something more on the scope of trauma in general. I think that would be a little more interesting to listen to and more enjoyable. The most requested movie that I'll never do. I can say firmly here, I will never do Battlefield Earth. Fuck that movie. What Good Bad Flicks episodes do you plan on doing remakes of, like you did with your Black Christmas Revisited? Super Mario Brothers, Cool as Ice, Without Warning, Motel Hell, Ninja 3 The Domination, and the Roger Corman Fantastic Four. What's your favorite Dario Argento movie? I know it's probably cliche at this point, but Suspiria. I love the use of color in that movie, and it was also my first Argento film. Trauma is a very close second. Favorite director you wish was still working? Richard Stanley, hands down. The guy was brilliant. He was overflowing with creativity and was just destroyed by the major studios. I would love to see him make a comeback. Do you enjoy art movies like those by David Lynch? If so, what's your favorite movie by him? I do enjoy art movies, but not all of them. For example, I hated Spring Breakers. My favorite David Lynch film, it's a toss-up between Dune and Blue Velvet. Do you think there's hope for Hollywood? There's too much PC bullshit. It's just ruining them. The budgets are getting out of control, and they seem to have forgotten that there needs to be a balance between art and business. They're focusing more on the business and less on the art, which is resulting in these incredibly expensive, forgettable films. I know you enjoy the works of Dean Koontz. Who are some other authors that you enjoy? Philip Jose Farmer is my all-time favorite author. I absolutely adore the man. Some others I like are Patricia Briggs, William Gibson, Douglas Copeland, Walter Greatshell, Neil Gaiman, and James Axler, who started the post-apocalyptic series Deathlands, but he died a few years afterwards. And since then, numerous authors have continued the series in his name. Have you ever walked out on a movie because it was so awful? I never left, but there are 2 movies that I want to walk out on. The Thin Red Line and A Knight's Tale. I hated them both. Best giant monster film. Them is pretty fantastic. If you're thinking more of the Godzilla-style monster, I'm kind of partial to Frankenstein Conquers the World. For some newer ones, I liked Monsters, Cloverfield, and The Host. Any crossovers planned? I've got a couple of things lined up, but I'm trying to space them out. Ever thought about making a behind-the-scenes video? Absolutely. I just need to get my office a little more fancied up. Right now it's kind of a mess. If I did make a video, it would be interesting for nobody. Oh look, a computer and a microphone and a whole bunch of movies. Have you ever seen the trash band movies like Banana Gun or Pirates vs. the Unicorn? No, but dear God, they sound wonderful. I'll look into them. I hope you like this. It was fun. If it goes over well, I'll do them a little more often. So hope you have a good week.